Hello, my name is Nick Van Buren, and we're about to watch the new Denzel Washington directed film, A Journal for Jordan. The trailer before trailer.
I really am glad you're here. I just want you to enjoy your weekend.
I see summer coming through the window pane.
You taste like oregano.
I can feel.
Oh wait, I bet he does.
You need to put all that away. I haven't had my coffee yet.
Excuse me.
Don't fail me now.
Dear Jordan,
Heart, don't fail me.
just take one look at your mother. Marry me.
Yes.
That will tell you what I think beautiful is.
I'm ready.
Your father wrote that.
I'm ready.
He wrote this whole thing just for you.
Now I'm ready.
Love is a choice, Jordan. And real love means you have to sacrifice. But pain is temporary. Real love lasts forever. But remember, Jordan, you have to fight for it.
See
Nice.
it exclusively in movie theaters this Christmas.
All right. Well, that looks incredibly sweet and potentially heartbreaking. Yeah, I guess we'll see. So we got Michael B. Jordan, who is just truly on a roll as of the last few years. It said introducing Shantae Adams, which plays his love interest, wife, fiance, and then Jordan is their son. So now I'm really not sure if this is a film that is going to be about a tragic loss or just about the relationship that they have that is strained by being in the war. Obviously, the film is called A Journal for Jordan, which seems to be referencing a very particular type of journal, one that I happen to be particularly familiar with. So I would guess that Michael B. Jordan's character doesn't make it back, but the trailer doesn't make it super clear either way. This movie looks honestly really beautiful. It looks almost like a musical in some of the shots with how expressive they are. There absolutely is some serious chemistry between Michael B. Jordan and Shantae Adams' character. I'm not too certain yet if this is going to be a heartwarming or heartbreaking film or both, but you know, it's kind of a good change of pace from a lot of the trailers that I've seen lately, and something I think I'd really be interested in watching this Christmas. All right, so I'm very curious to know how many of you understood what I got wrong after the first time watching this. After doing a little bit of research on the true story that this is based on, I went and showed this trailer to AC, who loved it, but also made a lot of the same assumptions that I made. I'm gonna go ahead and mark this section off with a spoiler tag, but also a disclaimer that I think this trailer creates a false pretense and makes you think certain information should be held in suspense when it really shouldn't be, because it's also spoiled by the log line on the IMDb page, reading, Charles Monroe King, before he is killed in action in Baghdad, authors a journal for his son intended to tell him how to live a decent life despite growing up without a father. So, yeah. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed too. However, this still could be an incredible film. The source material that this comes from is certainly moving. Said source material comes from Dana Kennedy, who's played by Shantae Adams in the film. She's an American journalist who at the time had been writing for the New York Times as their senior editor. At this point in the story, she had already received recognition as a writer, collaborating with other New York Times staff on a series of essays titled How Race is Lived in America, which won a Pulitzer Prize in 2001. In October of 2006, Dana's fiancé, Sergeant Charles Monroe King, was killed outside of Baghdad. Sergeant King's friend said this about him. He did not have to go on that resupply mission, but Sergeant King loved his soldiers. He would not let them do anything that he would not do, so he was right there with them. Kennedy's someone who said that she needed to write in order to process her grief. She needed to do something productive. In January of 2007, she authored a memoir titled From Father to Son, Last Words to Live By, which was about her husband and the over 200 pages of journal entries that he had left for his son, who he had only just met a month before he was killed. The memoir ran on the front page of the New York Times and created a lot of attention for Kennedy. One of the IT personnel at the New York Times apparently remarked that there was so much traffic on the New York Times website that they thought that their servers were going to crash. Kennedy decided to use the momentum and authored a full book titled A Journal for Jordan, which came out in 2008. And 10 years later, Sony Pictures would make an offer for the film rights and hired on Academy Award nominee Virgil Williams, known for Mudbound and Criminal Minds, to adapt the novel into a feature-length film directed by Denzel Washington. So I guess this leaves me wondering what the plot of this film will actually be. Just the story of their romance leading up to his death? Is Sergeant King the main character? Or is Kennedy the main character? Does it focus just on the journal with flashbacks to their life before? Or does it talk through the advice that Sergeant King gave to his son as his son grows up? Though his son would only be 15 now.
Yesterday.
Though maybe that doesn't quite work. Also, as an aside, being 15 and having a major feature film directed by Denzel Washington being made about your father who passed away when you were a kid is like the biggest flex I can imagine for a high schooler. Or, maybe he's already used to that since his mother is already a Pulitzer Prize winner and then went on to be the first African-American administrator for the Pulitzer Prize organization. A Journal for Jordan is coming out December 22nd, 2021, just in time for it to be that movie that you ugly cry for in front of your family. It's being produced by Sony Pictures and its swath of subsidiaries, including Columbia Pictures, which, yes, is just Sony, Escape Artists, Braun Studios, and Creative Wealth Media, along with Denzel Washington's production company, Mundy Lane, which before this only produced 4 other films over the last 30 years, Michael B. Jordan's production company, Outlier Society, which up until this point has also only released 4 other films, but after this has announced or already begun pre-production in 18 other films. Hey, do you think Michael B. Jordan is on the up and up? The film is directed by Denzel Washington. It's the first time he's stepping up to direct a film that he is not also cast in. Well, unless you count that one time he directed Grey's Anatomy. Maybe he just wanted some practice. The writers, as I mentioned before, are Virgil Williams, with a credit to Dana Kennedy, but they're joined, interestingly enough, by John Burnham Schwartz, an author of several novels, one of which was adapted into the 2007 film Reservation Road. Schwartz recently entered the film world by co-writing the HBO film The Wizard of Lies. So he's going to be an interesting writing partner for the tenured Virgil Williams, but Schwartz also wrote for the New York Times, so you never know, maybe Kennedy suggested him. Maurice Alberti joins the team as the director of photography. She had previously worked with Michael B. Jordan as the director of photography of Creed, but also on M. Night Shyamalan's 2015 horror film, The Visit, Darren Aronofsky's drama, The Wrestler, and Todd Haynes' 1998 cult hit, Velvet Goldmine. Props to Sony and Denzel for hiring on one of the very few female director of photographies in film. Then we get the cast. Michael B. Jordan gets top billing as Sergeant Charles Monroe King, though it remains to be seen if this film will be a multi-plot, with Sergeant King and Kennedy serving both as our main protagonists, or if the film will be more centered on Kennedy and her son. Michael B. Jordan, fresh off of his cameo appearance from the brand new Space Jam: A New Legacy, being mistaken as the wrong Michael Jordan, is more well known for his roles in Creed, which is getting a 3rd movie sometime next year, Black Panther, where he played opposite the late great Chadwick Boseman, and the indie superhero flick Chronicle, which is where he first shed his TV child star roots.
No. Sometimes the animal in me just gets kind of crazy.
And ventured out into the feature film world. Then as Dana Kennedy, we have Shantae Adams. Wait a minute. Introducing. Let's talk about this for a second. There's a long tradition in film trailers that before mentioning the name of a new promising star, that you put the words introducing before the name. Like a circus MC calling out to introduce his next freak. It happens often with child stars and I find that it happens more often with women than with men. However, there's also the fact that Shantae Adams has been acting in films since 2013, including roles in Neil Burger's new sci-fi film Voyagers, which came out earlier this year, Stella Maggie's The Photograph, where Shantae Adams starred alongside Lakeith Stanfield and Issa Rae, and the Netflix original movie from 2017 directed by Michael Larnell, Roxanne Roxanne, where Shantae Adams played the titular role as hip-hop artist Roxanne Shantae. So she's not exactly unknown, but clearly Sony thinks that this film is in another league from her previous work. Are they wrong? Yeah, possibly not by the looks of it. But I know I would be a little irked if I had directed a film and cast a brilliant young actor only for another filmmaker to claim that they discovered her. Lastly, there are a lot of other unknowns for any other roles in the casting so far, but we do know that Jalen Christian plays Canada and King's son Jordan at age 9 or 10, I'm guessing. So I guess we do see a little bit of him growing up at least. Jalen has only been in a few other short films before this, but I did see that he is set to play some sort of role in the brand new DC superhero film Black Adam, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. One more note about the casting, Michael B. Jordan and Shantae Adams have undeniable chemistry. But I will be a stickler for just a moment about casting these hot young celebrities, if only because Dana Kennedy was 40 when she had her first son, which is not, irrelevant to their relationship that they had. Also, Sergeant King was 48. Actually, now that I look at him, I feel like Dave Chappelle would be perfect to play him. Comedians love to have a film to show off their serious acting chops. Now let's dive back into the trailer for our review section of this video, and let's talk about tone. So yeah, this is definitely posed to be that Christmas tearjerker flick. They start us out with soft, warm, romantic music and dialogue, and a little taste of domestic life before we're introduced to Michael B. Jordan's narration, writing the journal for his son. The interactions and reactions between the two, specifically Shantae Adams' dialogue and infectious energy, are so genuine and sweet, juxtaposed with the images of Sergeant King on the front and Kennedy at home with her son, letting you know immediately that this is going to be a film that tugs on the heartstrings. I'll talk a bit more about the confusing messaging of this film in a minute, but suffice it to say, I think the trailer is extremely solid on an emotional level. The title, A Journal for Jordan, was a great choice by Dana Kennedy for her book, and it's a great choice for the movie too, even though it might throw a few people off just because they cast Michael B. Jordan as one of the top billing roles. I can only imagine Dana Kennedy's expression if you had told her in 2007 that her book was going to be adapted into a movie and her late husband was going to be played by a man named Michael Jordan. The cinematography of this trailer features a lot of dramatic movement and zooms that draw you into the scene. You'll notice a lot of these in your standard fare Oscar contenders.
Also, I've got to use tough love to help this Latin American teenager believe in himself. Also, I must prove innocent this incredibly humble human male. Also, I've decided to fight with the Native American metaphor against the American military metaphor.
But Alberti also knows when to stay still to let the performance carry the work. The movement is also useful for carrying the momentum through the slow romantic scenes until the music picks up. We get a leftward trucking dolly shot through the streets of New York City, and from then on, the expression and movement of the characters themselves is enough to keep the momentum going without needing any of that extra camera movement. Also on that, notice the slightly jittery handheld motion on the shot where Kennedy and King are sitting down with their son for what looks like a family portrait. Just a little moment of authenticity from what is otherwise beautiful, if clinically perfect, studio shots. That makes sense with Denzel being the director as one of the champions of the big budget drama film. It does seem like they tried to include as many shots of Christmas time as they could, but I would bet that this film is not a holiday film at its core. Now to the narrative. Look, we get the emotional core. You guys did it. Great job. But I feel like it's a disservice to this film to undercut the fact that Sergeant King did die. Not just because you can look it up online because it's a matter of historical record. After all, as we learned from AC last week, you can still hold the results of a duel in suspense in the trailer even though it happened 635 years ago. But because the well-known source material that this is based on advertised itself as being a memoir to a man who wanted to leave some last words of advice to his newborn son. After you know that, the fact that it's never explicitly stated in the trailer itself makes it feel a little bit cheap, but also makes me wonder about the plot and the rest of the movie. I feel like this trailer doesn't really give us an idea about what events are actually in the film. There's no scenes of conflict of any sort between Sergeant King and Kennedy. Nothing that implicates that Kennedy might be upset at King for not coming home sooner, or that she's asking him to come home to be there for the birth of their son. She looks sad sometimes, but I mean, with no context, of course she is. I just don't get exactly what will make this a compelling film if it's just about their happy relationship, him dying at war and leaving the journal. My hypothesis is that this film is not linear. It'll start off establishing that Jordan's dad died in the war, with Kennedy speaking to her young son. She'll talk about how they met, and the movie will go into way more detail than she would ever actually tell her son. And they'll read over some passages from the book that give an idea of the kind of man that he was, and how his actions demonstrate the advice that he gives. This being said, if this is the plot, I don't think it was conveyed very well with the trailer. The trailer makes Michael B. Jordan look like the main character, which could still be the case. Either way, this looks like a dream role for Shantae Adams, and her charisma is shining through in this trailer. I alluded to this while talking about cinematography, but the pacing in this trailer is absolutely what makes this trailer feel as whole as it is, with leaving as much of the narrative unknown. Shots and motion and music fuel this trailer to the end, using all of their advantages at their disposal. Speaking of music, are you ready? Okay, the song in this trailer is a new release from LA singer-songwriter Judith Hill. She's been around a while and was touring as a duet partner with Michael Jackson, Josh Groban, and John Legend. Her music was used quite a bit in Spike Lee's 2012 film Red Hook Summer, and she was actually a contestant in the 4th season of The Voice. Her music was also used last year in the Hulu original TV show Little Fires Everywhere, and then she came out with an album titled Baby, I'm Hollywood. So I think she knows she's got a good thing going. That said, outside of Hill, there isn't any composer listed for Journal for Jordan. There's simply a executive in charge of music, so who knows what it will sound like by the time it premieres. Next up, hype factor. This is the section of the review where I rate how well this trailer worked for me personally. Honestly, despite my initial confusion, the emotional core of this trailer is really solid. I'm really curious to see how they flesh this out into a full film, since you are supposed to know the ending before you even go in. Michael B. Jordan is an absolute treasure, and I bet you he does taste like oregano. And Shantae Adams is incredibly charming and really sells that big star energy that I just assumed that she was some well-known actress that I hadn't learned of yet. This will likely be the film that I ugly cry to at Christmas. You're welcome, Macy. Then last but not least, it's the popcornability, where we determine the likelihood of whether this trailer was enough to make you go and buy $30 worth of popcorn to share with your group, only to find out that they don't eat once the movie starts. The info that this trailer conveys is confusing, but most people aren't going to care. My only concern is that people will go into the film thinking that Sergeant King's fate is held in suspense, only to find the opposite answer very quickly. These kind of misconceptions often lead to people making opinions on the film based purely on what they expected from watching the trailer and then feeling like they didn't get what they paid for. Regardless, I think this film is going to do real well, assuming theaters are still open in December. It's honestly really refreshing to have a film that's not about an awful marriage or people that hate each other or just another war film. This is a film about a couple who wanted to become a family, but were robbed of that dream. My mom gave me this book a few months after my dad passed away. I never knew he had worked on it, but it had all sorts of stories and words of wisdom from him. I haven't read all of it, honestly, because I know that it's the last time he'll ever speak to me, but I'll read it someday when I'm ready. I mention this because I know how powerful it is to have something tangible, words even, from someone that you love that's gone. So I hope this will be a good film. But regardless, it's a great story. And the fact that Dana Kennedy used her talent and influence to let the world know how great her guy, the father of her children, was. I think that's a pretty incredible and human moment. I'd give this trailer 3 out of 5 tubes of oregano chapstick. Thank you so much for watching. We are still a brand new channel making our way in the world. It has been a lot, but we are so thankful for everybody who's been tuning in week after week to catch our spicy takes on the hottest trailer of the week. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe and to ring the bell as well so you can make sure that you don't miss out the second that we upload a brand new video. Did you like our video? Share it with your friends. Did you hate our video? Share it with your enemies. My name is Nick Van Buren, and you've been watching a good, honest trailer that really needs to talk to its marketing department.